Hello, Team Minot. I'm Mr. J, your community support coordinator, and the moderator for the You Matter Roundtable, also known as Ask the Helping Agencies. This is our weekly podcast where our experts answer your questions and discuss topics to help our community members navigate some of the challenges they may face in regards to their spiritual, social, mental, and physical well-being. I have some subject matter experts with me today. Let's go ahead and get them introduced. Chaplain Harris, forward.
I'm Chaplain J.R. Harris. I'm the wing chaplain here at Team Minot.
I am Leanna Hughes. I'm the military family life counselor for Minot.
And I'm Chaplain Nathan Smith. I'm the group chaplain for the 5th Maintenance Group.
I'm Dr. Kilgore. I'm a psychologist in the mental health clinic.
Awesome. So welcome, subject matter experts. So we did get a few questions in last week on the Team Minot app link. We've selected a few for our discussion today. So our first question comes to us anonymously. The first part of the question asks us, who has the best college football team? Not Bama. Sorry, Chaplain Hughes, I think you want to hang up at this point.
Yeah, I'm off.
I think that was an attempted humor, so I'll just say go Badgers and we'll move on to
Go Cougars.
Yes. Okay, so in all seriousness, how do your services affect PRP? Specifically, this airman wants to know potential career impacts. The question also mentioned HIPAA, and it might be good to touch on that talk and talk about how HIPAA and PRP, they intermingle, but they're different. Also, this airman's wanting to seek help, but doesn't want their leadership to know. There's a fear that their leadership has it out for folks that seek help. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this one to you, Dr. Kilgore, to go ahead and start our conversation.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So wonderful question, a weak question for this. I'm happy to kind of touch on a few things and hopefully you can walk away with a few nuggets and how, PRP status may or may not be impacted by seeking services. I'll chat a little bit about from a mental health and a substance abuse perspective. So I think what this question is really getting at is stigma. Right? Can we be stigmatized for seeking help, for seeking care? And I think the true answer is that stigma used to be a thing. When people sought care, there was a significant career impact. The good news is it's no longer what it was, that we're trying to get away from what it used to be, that when you walk your foot through the door, it doesn't mean that your status is impacted immediately. There's always a presumption of non-notification. So what I mean by that is when you set up an appointment, doesn't mean we call your commander and let them know, hey, this person's seeking care. Really how it impacts you is if there's something that's distracting to duty or there's something that's impacting your suitability. That's what we look for whenever we assess somebody who's PRP, presidential support, Army source, anything like that. We have to know how it might impact their duty. And what I tell people to do is actually ask the question. I think part of the question that this anonymous person asked was, is it safe to seek services? And I think it's safe to ask questions and it's safe to ask hypotheticals. And so I really encourage folks to get with the chaplain who has 100% confidentiality, call anonymously, and you and chaplain can say, hey, hypothetically, if I were to disclose X, Y, and Z, how would that impact my PRP status? Don't say your name, don't say anything about you. And we are absolutely happy to answer that hypothetical question and kind of give you the real deal about how this may or may not impact your status. There's some important kind of AFIs that you can reference. There's a DoD manual 5210.42 that gives you a little bit more info, and then the mental health AFI 44-172. So if you're looking for kind of hardcore, what are the parameters of some of the things that we deal with in mental health and substance abuse, those are the ones that you can kind of look at.
Excellent. And I love that idea of reaching out and kind of getting a feel for it in advance. So does anybody else want to weigh in on this topic?
I can weigh in on it too. Thank you, Dr. Kilgore, for that lead off, because as far as the MFLAC, the Military Family Life Counseling goes, it is completely confidential. I answer my own phone. I do my own scheduling. So it is there's not any records. And as far as records go, there's no written records, no electronic records that are kept either. HIPAA compliance, everything is secure. The only reasons I would have to report out is harm to self, harm to others, or I believe that someone is going to harm you. Other than that, it is kept in-house between the participant and myself. We do not offer medical counseling. What the impact is it's brief solution-focused counseling and assistance and support. We would report out and help with referrals if it was more deemed a medical need. Excuse me. I would help with a handoff, with a referral at that point. And at that point, information would be disclosed, but the member would be aware of that.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Leanna.
From a Chaplain Corps perspective, Dr. Kilgore is exactly right. Our confidentiality is absolute. It's 100%. Some people don't fully understand how exhaustive and absolute it is. In that, the Chaplain Corps, we don't have a responsibility. In fact, we have a requirement not to report a person if they're homicidal, suicidal, etc. So I would say that we're a great first place to stop if you just don't know where you should turn. We do have an area of expertise in spiritual and religious counseling from our own faith traditions, of course, but we see people from a host of backgrounds and with a host of issues, and then what we're able to do is listen to them and know the resources we have in our community to be there with the person, and then know how to responsibly refer and be able to advise that person on what are the potential impacts, if any, to make those kind of hypothetical phone calls on a person's behalf. I've done that many times before. The only way we can ever disclose what's spoken to us about is through, it's got to be in writing, signed by the member, signed by the chaplain, signed by a third party witness. It's a very complicated process for us to even begin to disclose anything that we hear about in a counseling setting. My only caveat in that, though, is that we are not experts in everything. We're not trained in mental health. We're not trained in substance abuse or marriage and family therapy modalities. So while we're a very safe place to start, we're going to walk with the person through that and likely encourage them to go seek other agencies or other means of help, depending upon what they come to us to talk about.
Excellent. I'm hearing this theme about us working together to make sure that folks are getting the help that they need. Chaplain Smith, you want to weigh in on this?
I think the only thing that I would add is to your point that you just made, Mr. J, is we are all here from helping agencies to really support airmen and families. And so we do that in a multitude of ways. And one of those ways is through that counseling. And just to echo what Captain Kilgore mentioned and Chaplain Harris is, we do have AFIs that tell us that if we don't do what Chaplain Harris just described, we are actually held accountable as Chaplain Corps members or UCMJs. So we're in big trouble if we violate that. So that's what AFI 52101 says is this is, for us, we're mandated non-reporters.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, I think this is a lot of excellent information. There was another part to this question that I'd like to touch on real quickly, though. This airman is wanting to seek help, but doesn't want their leadership to know. They fear their leadership has it out for folks who seek help. I think this is something worth spending just a little bit of time talking about. Who wants to take the lead on that part of that question?
I can speak to that. As far as my standpoint, again, it's between the participants and I even if leadership was aware that person was seeking help and that person contacted me and asked me specifically if I had seen that person, I would not speak to that in any way, shape, or form. It just doesn't happen. Even if there was pressure put on, if they were insistent upon it, I would not speak to that. I do not release that information.
Right.
Yeah, I think going off of what Ms. Hughes was saying, that again, it's that presumption of non-notification. So we don't notify your command the second that you step foot through the door. And I think that's a really awesome question that folks can get more comfortable with asking. Hey, what happens when I disclose this? Are you going to call my command? What does it look like? I think sometimes it can be intimidating to ask those questions because it can be perceived as defensive, but absolutely not. We welcome any questions that people have about their status, about their commander. I got a really wonderful quote recently from a shirt who said that he feels like treatment is actually a career saver and not a career ender. And what I liked about that was most folks that have a significant career impact from seeking services are the ones that have an identified problem and then don't take care of it or don't seek whatever resources or recommendation to get that in check and get that taken care of. And so that's what we're really worried about. If you identify there's something wrong and you do what's recommended, there really is a very minimal career impact or minimal stigma or minimal kind of command interference with that. So I think keeping that in mind as well.
What I tell a lot of the airmen who ask me that question is you will probably experience a short-term career impact, meaning you might be recommended to come down off PRP, Army Use of Force, etc. You may have a shift schedule. You may have some short-term impact, but that long-term impact really rests on whether or not you actually seek and follow through on the help that is recommended to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing I'd like to add too, sorry, Mr. J, but from a chaplain corps perspective, religious support teams and chaplains like what Chaplain Smith is doing in the maintenance group, their perspective as being embedded in the unit and understanding the op tempo and the culture of that given unit puts them in a unique position to understand not just the members' position, but the leadership's position. And so as Chaplain Smith, as he builds a rapport with the senior leadership in his squadrons and across his group, he's able actually to advise those leaders, again, not disclosing any personal information, but in terms of broad trends, he's able to advise his leaders on what's going on, what people are really saying about the culture of the unit, the op tempo, various issues that are going on operationally. And so what he's able to do from his position may change the impact. It may impact the culture of the squadron for the better, just by him being in touch with those issues.
Excellent. No, and I really, again, appreciate, there were a lot of things that came up during this part of our talk that I think were really important. Aside from just the collaboration. So again, I think we got the right group together to talk about how our helping agencies really work together. We work hand in hand to make sure that our community members are taken care of. Chaplain Smith, you had mentioned, the part about follow through, right? So this just reminds me from a very non-clinical perspective that there are lots of career options. There are lots of different jobs for folks, but there's only one of you. So getting the help that you need to be the best version of you. And I will tell you from my perspective, everybody else in this podcast, all these different agencies are here to get you back to the fight. Ultimately, it's about getting you back to being able to do the job to the best of your ability so that we can get the mission done. So this is really about taking care of yourself. And I really appreciate that. So that kind of leads us into our second question, so there's another anonymous question. So it is here, why are there so many helping agencies and who's in charge of them? That's the first part of the question. If we are the #1 strategic base in the Department of Defense, why don't we have more activities, events, and retreats? So with your permission, panel, I'm going to go ahead and take the first part of this two-parter. And it's, why are there so many helping agencies and who's in charge of them? The horrible problems we have. So I will tell you, I retired from the Air Force in 2011. I worked in the mental health clinic for most of my 22 years active duty. So I'm very familiar with the helping agencies, especially from a mental health perspective. I retired from the Air Force. I became an HR director at a regional hospital in Texas. And the first thing that hit me was the lack of support services for our employees. We did have an employee assistance program. It provided brief services. But anything beyond that, you had to dig into your insurance and hope that there were appointments available, hope that there was somebody nearby that could see you, hope your insurance would cover it. A lot of ifs in that equation. And then, taking it back to base, and this is, and many of you may have seen the You Matter campaign. We talk about this is our You Matter podcast. Why we decided to run with this You Matter campaign, it struck me, why I asked the same question, why do we have so many support services for our airmen and their families? And the only answer I could get to over and over and over again was because you matter, because you're important enough that we're going to put the resources, make the resources available to help you be the best version of yourself, to help pick you up when you're down, to help get you back on track when you're off track, so that you can contribute to the mission. And that is something unique to the military environment. It's something I'm proud of. The other part of that was who's in charge of the helping agencies. It's a little bit more of a loaded question. So our helping agencies come from a lot of different backgrounds. We have our chaplains work for the wing, for the host wing. Our mental health clinic, ADAP Family Advocacy, work for our medical group. We have an Airmen and Family Readiness Center that works for Force Support Squadron. We've got our military family life counselors that kind of work alongside Airmen and Family Readiness, but they don't work for Airmen and Family Readiness. They're contracted for a specific service. So lots of different entities that are in charge of the different helping agencies. But the good news is we're all unified in how we approach caring for our community. And that happens, and that's kind of why I'm here. As the community support coordinator, I work with all the helping agency leads and helping agencies to make sure that we're looking for any negative trends. Are we seeing more DUIs? Are we seeing more domestic violence, sexual assaults? Those things that I think as a community we don't want to see happen. We want to get out in front of. We want to try to help our commanders and our community deal with that. So my job is to make sure that we're all working in a concerted effort, even though each one of those organizations has their own mission and provides services, as you heard, a little bit differently, that we're all targeted to take care of our community in a similar fashion. So kind of a loaded answer for a loaded question. Does anybody want to add anything to that? I'm sure may have glanced over something.
So I think you did a really good job answering the first half of that question. I don't know if there's really anything to add without making it more loaded, as it were.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the feedback. So then let's go ahead and move on to the second part of the question. If we're the number one, no, we are the number one strategic base in the Department of Defense. Why don't we have more activities, events, and retreats? So I think, Chaplain Harris, we're going to let you kick off this part of the discussion. So talking about activities, events, and retreats that we offer, and why don't we have more?
Well, John, I would just say up front, knowing all of what the Chaplain Corps does, not just my team, but the True North Chaplain Corps teams, as well as the amazing work week in and week out that our Force Support Squadron does. There's a lot going on here. I've been a chaplain for over 13 years, and I can't think of another time in my career where I saw as much going on as goes on here at Minot. So that would be one thing. However, I understand that the person who says that, they have legitimate needs that are not being met. So my thing would be just let us know. And when I say us, I can only speak for the Chaplain Corps, but confidently I would know that Force Support Squadron wants to do everything they can to make sure that airmen and their families feel taken care of and have a great experience here at Minot. So if you're not seeing something you like, just let us know, and we'll look at our resources and see what we can do to meet the need. Because at the end of the day, we're all here as helping agencies and support agencies to do just that, to help and support and make sure that this assignment is one that you'll tell your kids and grandkids about years and years from now. So the key thing is just, if you're not seeing what you like / want / need, let somebody know.
Open up the floor.
Sorry, my internet just glitched. I think you asked me to say something, and I'm talking anyway, so I'm going to. So Chaplain Harris is spot on. If someone has something that they are looking for that we're not providing, let us know. What's unique with the True North program is while Chaplain Harris and myself and all our friends in ministry, all the other chaplain corps members, we all work together. We're all part of the same corps. We are all also separate entities. So my focus area is the 5th Maintenance Group. I'm the group chaplain. So last Friday, we did a virtual cookie decorating event. I know a couple weeks before, the 5th Mission Support Group, they did a virtual painting thing. The 91st Security Force Group has a couple things coming up. The 91st Maintenance Group has some things that they're planning. And so even in this COVID environment, we are trying to do outreach and to help build families and individuals up in healthy and helpful ways. And then outside of that, once COVID is gone and passed and we're into whatever next looks like, we'll get back to doing our retreats like we do to Medora or to Minneapolis or to wherever, that really focus on building those families and individuals up against a time of crisis or against a time of concern, so that we can help airmen and families become familiar not only with us as a helping agency, but also help them build up their own ability to come back from whatever challenges they do have. So we do those types of things all the time. And so I'd also ask anyone who's not aware of them to follow us on our Facebook pages, to look out to their squadron Facebook pages where we reach out. And if there's again, another way that we can reach you to let you know, let us know so we can get you that information. Over.
Similar to what? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
On you, man.
Similar to what Chaplain Smith was saying, ADAPT, mental health, FAP, we do similar types of outreach. So we love to come out to a unit. We love to do briefs if people want to know more about alcohol education, prevention, healthy relationships. FAP does a lot with particular units, even at the MAFs, about relationships and coaching and counseling. And we haven't been doing much, obviously, because of COVID, but we're happy to support folks in whatever way that they think they might need. And we're always open to suggestions. And I get a lot of emails from people in a unit that say, hey, could you come out and talk about what's responsible drinking? Can you come and talk about what's fighting fair? Talk about how can we sleep if we're on a shift schedule? And so we can prepare things that are super quick and easy that you can even deliver yourself if we're not able to come out to the unit. And so don't be afraid of us. We're all here to help. And so please approach us via email, phone, in person, and let us know how we can best support you.
No, that's great. Leanna, did you want to add anything to this part?
Just as with Dr. Kilgore just mentioned, I too can come out and do briefings. I don't necessarily sponsor events, but I definitely like to be involved in things. So if there's ever a need, anything that I can be of use in briefing, education, I'm definitely always willing. And we have quick briefs that could be 15 to 20 minutes to, 30, 45 minutes, educational components, communications, family, things like that.
Awesome. And, so we don't know who this question came from. I think what I heard overwhelmingly is we do offer quite a few different activities and retreats and presentations for our community. I did like and it was a similar theme throughout. If there's something that you're looking for that you're not seeing, reach out to the helping agencies. You can also reach out to me directly. If you type JEZ in the global address list, you will get 3 people. And 2 of them are my family members, and I'm the only active duty civilian. So Jaworski is the last name, and I'd be glad to help you out or point you in the right direction to work with our different agencies. We try to get the word out to everybody. We know that communication breaks down from time to time in different places. And obviously there are budgetary restrictions to certain things that we have to take into consideration. But together, the team looks at those different opportunities, and we present those to our installation leadership to see what's feasible and what we can provide. I will tell you that there's a lot of really neat stuff going on at Minot Air Force Base. Chaplain Harris, I agree with you. I don't know that I've been to a base where I've seen this level of activities and events and retreats. I think there's a neat one coming out for our MSG folks. I just saw the email. So follow the Facebook pages of the helping agencies. Reach out to any of the helping agencies or reach out to me. So again, any alibis? Did we miss anything? Does anybody want to redress on anything in particular? Okay. So a lot of great questions from our community, and we'd ask that you just keep bringing those to us. Just go to the Team Minot app on your mobile device. There's Ask the Helping Agencies link. It is anonymous if you choose for it to be, just like these 2 questions we received today. If you're somebody that answered one of those 2 questions and you feel like we didn't quite hit the mark, reach out to me directly and I will do my best to get you the answer that you were looking for. So before we wrap up, finally, a big thank you to our panel members. Again, thank you for taking your time today to talk to me and our community. And a big thank you to our audience today for giving us some of your time. So thank you, Team Minot. I'm sure that we have more questions for our helping agencies in the community. So again, please submit those. We look forward to answering your questions during next week's podcast. Stay safe, practice appropriate social distancing. Please remember that you matter, and stay Minot strong.